Hi, I'm Rolla David, and we welcome you to our show, The Divorce Project. Are you or someone you know going through a divorce or a custody battle? Well, our show offers caring solutions and legal guidance to help you create a healthy family dynamic during a divorce and post-divorce. Next, you'll meet the host of The Divorce Project, family law attorney Barry Fisher. On each show, Barry brings together family specialists, parents, and children into conversation about divorce and highlight the positive and mindful solutions that can result when we all work together.
Hello, welcome to The Divorce Project. Thank you for joining us. I am Barry Fisher, a family law attorney, and we have a very exciting show for you today. We have Dr. Fran Wolfish as our guest. She has great experience. She's a psychologist that works in Beverly Hills. She has 15 years experience working at clinical staff at Cedars-Sinai. She's a published author, a book called Self-Aware Parent. And she's been on TV shows, and she has columns in various newspapers, and she's just going to be starting a column in the Beverly Hills Courier. So we're very lucky to have us here today. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Barry. My pleasure.
Just to give you a little background about myself, I've been a family law attorney for 26 years, and the purpose of this show is to try to give you insight, information, and assistance in going through divorce and family law issues. Today, we're going to focus on a subject that is very complex, but very helpful and very common. It's called parental alienation syndrome. And Dr. Wolfish, can you tell the audience how, as a psychologist, you would explain what parental alienation is? Absolutely.
My experience, Barry, from the clinical side is it's extremely rare for me to see a family divorce without, sadly, the mom and dad going to war with each other. And what I find happens often is the mom and dad, the parents, are angry at each other, and they say bad things about the other parent to the children. And what it does is incredibly confuse these kids because they know their mom and dad as the parent they love. Mm-hmm. And so it brings conflict.
So also another way of looking at it is one parent educating the child to be against the other parent. And, you know, parents do this in various ways. They do it in direct, saying, the mom says, oh, your dad's terrible, or they do it in an indirect, subtle way, always complaining or saying negative things in front of the child about the parent. And what happens to the child when the child hears these negative comments about the other parent?
Well, the first thing that happens is the child feels guilty. And the guilt is, every kid loves their mother and father. You know, research proves that even kids who are abused love their parents. And every child wants to love their mother and father. And when one parent says, he's bad or she's bad, you should not love them, it makes the child feel guilty, sad, angry, mm-hmm. and confused. Mm-hmm. And I think kids feel that anyway in divorce. It's destructive to kids.
And you know what happens in the court system? The parents go into court and they're fighting over custody, who's going to be the decision maker for the parent, for the children, and what's going to be the visitation schedule. So they think they can get an advantage by getting one child or both children of the marriage or whatever number it is, mm-hmm. to be negative about the other parent. So when the court says, I want you to go to dad's house 3 times a week, and the teenager says, no, I don't want to go, I hate him. And that was caused by the mom educating the child. So it plays out in court as it looks like the teenager doesn't like the dad, and the court says, well, you know, we can't really force a teenager to do what the teenager doesn't want to do. So it creates a problem because the father is losing the relationship with the teenager. And so what kind of preventive measures do you advise the parents to take to try to avoid this?
Well, there are a number of them. First, I'm a believer in psychotherapy. And the kids who come into my office every hour after school in the afternoons and evenings throw themselves onto my couch and cry. And not only do they complain about my dad's a bad guy because they've been brainwashed, they also secretly in my office or privately complain about their mothers. Why is my mom doing this to me? And it makes the kid feel angry. Some of these children are afraid to confront their mothers and say, knock it off, Mom. I want to love my dad too. So step one is to, put your kids in therapy or do some sort of couples counseling where you get advice on how to deal with the children in their best interest. Number two, never use your child as a messenger. So many moms are saying, tell your dad to send the check, the alimony check, or tell your mom to pick you up on time. She's always late. That is not for children to do. Parents have to find a way to make those messages clearly communicated without the kids. Do not say bad things about your ex-husband or wife to your children. It only hurts them. What each parent needs to do is encourage their children to love and respect both parents, because bottom line, every child is half mom and half dad. And if that parent says don't like that other parent, that child has a self-hatred for that part of him or her that comes from the other parent.
And, in the court system, the judges are very aware that the conflict of a divorce has a very negative effect on the children. So the court always issues orders. Don't discuss the case with your kids. Don't talk about anything having to do with divorce or custody or visitation with the children. When it's time to tell them that there's a visitation plan, it says, your mom and dad met together, and this is what we decided is best for you, and give that common voice. And fortunately, some parents can do it, but many can't. And the reason they can't is because they're so angry themselves. Mm-hmm. They've been betrayed, they're going through the divorce, they're disappointed, they're frightened, they're uncertain about their future. So because they're unstable, they don't do well in the parenting role. Right. And one of the things that I notice is that parents tend to use the children to feel like they're still in control. So, mom may take all the kids and say, well, I'm going to keep them over here on my side and protect myself by holding on to the kids. So, when the children come into your office and there's parental alienation where they don't want to talk to one parent, mm-hmm. how do you get the child to talk to the parent that they're refusing to talk to?
It depends on the age of the child. And if I could, for your listening audience, just talk to you for a moment about child development psychologically.
Of course.
From birth to 12 months of age, the first early 12 months, the main psychological goal is bonding, the attachment between the infant and the mom. And come age 18 months, children are now kickstarting the toddler phase. And from 18 months until age 4 years, that toddler phase, many things are happening that are crucial to the rest of that child's life. They include every toddler must claim himself and herself as a separate being from mommy and daddy. And that means temper tantrums, we welcome them, saying no, sometimes throwing things and being aggressive. The child is saying, I'm me, you're not me, don't tell me what to do. And P.S., that parallels in the adolescent phase, because adolescents must resolve the separation process they begin in toddlerhood. The the elementary school years from age 7 to 12 is called latency, and that's when kids psychologically go underground. What do I mean by that? Their defenses are more solidly, they're gelling and solidly in place. So you'll say to your kid, "What'd you do in school today?" The kid says, "Nothing." "How was math class?" "Good." And so it takes more effort to chip away at those defenses and really understand what's going on inside the child's mind. Separation, which is the theme of divorce, is something that all of us are dealing with on a lifelong basis. A great mentor of mine, a child psychiatrist at Cedars, once said, "We're born, and for the rest of our lives, we're dealing with separation. New job, change of residence, divorce, God forbid death, those elicit separation anxiety." And I think how people move through toddler phase predicts how they're going to go through this divorce, not just the children, but the mom and dad as well.
I completely agree with you. And I see oftentimes that parents go back to what happened to them in the toddler stage unconsciously and start acting and behaving. And what happens is this need to be a parent. They shouldn't be a toddler. But so many of them are acting in this immature way because they don't know what happened. They don't know why they're doing it, because it's unconscious, because they haven't cleared it up or set it straight. You know, when people in court accuse each other of parental alienation, it's very difficult for the court to sort that out, to see who's doing what, because the court has like a limited window. It sees 25 cases in one morning, and you have 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes you have longer hearings. Sometimes hearings go on for days. But in most cases, it's just a brief look. So the judge is sitting up there, and they've written in the papers, and they're discussing it, and the lawyers are discussing it, and the lawyers are spinning it to get their advantage, and then the judge has to make a call. You know, it's much better for parents going through a divorce to make the decision about their parenting plan with their partner and not with the court. Because why are you going to turn over such an important decision to a total stranger who you don't know if he's going to make the right decision for your child?
Absolutely.
And so you might as well do it yourself. Now, it's harder, but it's easier in the long run and better for your family. Have you ever seen a case where a parent was like spying on the kids?
You know, I'm happy to tell you I have not.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a rare thing, but I can tell you what would happen if that did occur is it would breach the child's trust with that parent, and the child would have a lot of good reasons to say, "I don't want to, trust my dad or mom anymore," because how could they do that? What I encourage is always straight talk, honesty, preparing kids for what's coming, preparing them for the schedule, and being open and straightforward.
You know, there sometimes there's a new partner involved, like the parents split up and the dad has a new girlfriend and the mom has a new boyfriend. And talking about trust, how does that affect the children?
Great question. I find that is almost across the board a universally big problem for every age kid. Almost always. The children come into my office, they complain, "I don't want to go with her." You know, it really does depend on the age. The younger the child, I'm kind of categorizing here, but the younger the child, it seems it's easier for the child to accept mom or dad having a new girlfriend, boyfriend. Teenagers, it's brutal. And if there has been infidelity in the couple, it's exceptionally difficult and the child knows it. I've had a couple of cases where teenagers or pre-teenagers discovered the infidelity. They found perhaps dad's emails or text messages, and then the father who was cheating goes to that child and says, "Don't tell mommy," and so that kid is carrying the burden. It's very, very complicated. It can take years to repair that breach of trust.
And sometimes it's never repaired or repairable.
Sadly, true.
Yes, because it's very hard to repair those sort of things inside someone's system. You know, the courts apply an interesting standard. What is the best for my child? They call it the best interest. And they're going to always look at a fact situation, and they're going to take what's the best for this child, and that's what we're going to decide for them. But oftentimes, things happen where, for instance, the court thinks that the court's ordered by the legislature to think this way, frequent and continuous contact with both parents. So in order to achieve that, the court orders children to see both parents. Now, what about the scenario where one child says, "I don't want to see my mom anymore"? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. It's so complicated. And the reason is, you know, I've seen a good, slick sociopath fool the court and even fool me. And I have a lot of experience. So forgive the psychobabble. Let me say what I mean by a psychopath. Watch out for a charm. People who are exceedingly charming and perhaps do not have any guilt about hurting the other person, can tell kids bad things about the other parent and convince the court that the other parent is a bad parent. For instance, let me give you an example. I worked with a case where the mom was using alcohol and drugs. 3 or 4 children, beautiful. On the outside, perfect American family. The father looked really together, and he was working and clean-cut and bright and articulate. But it turned out that I was duped, and eventually the children told me terrible things this father was doing, not only to them but to the mom, in addition to the cheating.
Right.
And I'm not condoning use of substances, but she had a good reason to want to check out.
I've seen cases where I saw one with a mom where the mom was hiding alcoholism, and but it came out. It comes out. Eventually it comes out. Let's try to help the audience, give them some tools. So what tool can we give a child that's with their parents and one parent is bad-mouthing the other parent? What kind of tools can we give the child? What would you advise the child to do?
Okay, great question. Thanks, Barry. First, it's tricky depending on the psychology of the bad-mouthing parent. You can say to the child, say something like, "Daddy, please stop," or "Mommy, that hurts my feelings when you say that." If psychologically the parent is open and fairly together, they'll listen and empathize with the child. Some parents are going to be angry at the child. "Don't tell me what to do. I'm your parent."
I think the best recommendation, I apologize
is
for
don't do that.
No, is "You're hurting my feelings." I think that's the best, because when you tell a parent to please stop, you get a reaction. If you say, "You're hurting my feelings," they stop and go, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't know I was doing that."
Okay.
So I would opt for that one rather than "please stop." But
Excellent.
"Please stop" could work. You know?
Excellent. You know, another thing kids can do is just take a chill time and go in their room and type on the computer or do something like that. I also suggest watch out for children who will try to pin mom and dad against each other when it comes to discipline. You know,
Well, that's very common.
Extremely common.
Well, parents have different personalities and different disciplinary styles.
Right.
And so it's very common for children to do that. Even when they're not going through a divorce,
I just
children are
wanted to
doing
say that.
You know,
Exactly.
it's very common because they get the advantage.
Exactly.
Now, 2 households in a divorce is a problem. Why is it a problem for the child?
mainly the going back and forth is a big complaint for children, especially once they're in elementary, middle, and high school. It's so hard. I was, telling you that kids have favorite skirt, favorite hat, favorite DVD at mom or dad's house.
They forget it at one house and have to go back.
Exactly. And homework sometimes is a school book that's needed for doing homework is at dad's house and they're at mom's. That is difficult. The other,
you know what I recommend to parents, if they're able to do it, is to leave the children in one place and the parents do the shuttling. So when it's their custodial time, they're with the kids. Kids never move. They never leave the house.
I love that.
Then when it's not their time, they go stay at their apartment or their other house.
Excellent.
I had one client come in, and the guy was worth like $40 million, and he said, I have a wife of 25 years, I'm going to give her half. That's uncommon that you're so willing to give him half. So he said to me, how's this going to affect my children? I said, it's going to irrevocably affect your children for the rest of your life if you go through this divorce. Could you keep them, you have so much money, keep them in one house, buy a house for your wife, you have a house, and you shuttle back and forth. And the conversation proceeded and he left. He called me back about an hour later and he said, because of what you told me, how it's going to affect my children, I'm not going to get divorced.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible how effect you can have on people.
I love that.
So what happens if a step-parent or a parent is being rude to mom or dad? What's the best thing for the child to do? Get involved, not get involved?
I want to make sure I understand the question. You mean the child is rude to the step-parent, or the step-parent is rude to the birth parent?
Yes.
Oh.
and the child is there. Should the child not get involved, or should the child walk away, or should the child say, please don't fight? I mean, what's the remedy?
Wow, that's a tough one for kids. Number one, I would say, to use that same phrase, hey guys, you're hurting my feelings.
Yes.
Because those people, if they're empathic, will want to tune into the child's feelings. So cool it, you're hurting my feelings. But be careful, kids, because it's tricky when you start taking sides. This is so common in divorces, and blended families. There's rivalry and jealousy and anger and hatred, and kids generally have an allegiance toward their birth parents.
Mm-hmm. So, if you're thinking about going through a divorce, consult a good attorney. Maybe that attorney will send you to a good psychologist like Fran Wolfish, because if you can bring your family together, even though you're going to go through a divorce, you can do it in a way that protects your children and protects yourselves, so that you don't feel threatened and one parent's not trying to pull your son or daughter away from you, and you can share it and you can plan it, and it can come out as something very positive, even though the parents have decided to go their separate ways. It's uncommon because not enough attorneys, not enough professionals counsel the clients to do that. And oftentimes, as an attorney, we only get one side of the story because we represent one side, because we have an adversarial system, a court system. So when they come into our office, we don't have both parents there. And if we start having both parents there, later we can't represent either one. So it's not conducive because it creates a conflict of interest. So it's not conducive the way the system is set up. But a lawyer can say to his client, wife or husband or mom or dad, and say, you know what you should do with your family? You should make an appointment with a psychologist and work out a parenting plan and then bring it back to me. And that will save you thousands of dollars, and it'll assist the family in so many ways. You want to do something good for your kids? That's what you do for your kids if you're going to go through a divorce. Be smart. Take care of them first. They're your pride and joy. That's what you live for, and that's what you should continue to protect. Now, what happens when a child does not want to go on a particular visitation? She's ordered to do so, but she says, no, I don't want to go. And I actually have to withdraw that question because we're down to our last minute, so I apologize. So I just want to thank Dr. Fran Wolfish for being here today. Thank you for participating in the show.
Thank you.
I hope you'll come back again in the future.
I'd love to.
And I'd like to acknowledge the KBEV staff, which is Beverly Hills High School students, produce, edit, do the entire production under the direction of Romeo, Carey. They do an amazing job. And I want to thank you all for coming and listening to this program. And please come back next week. We're going to be on each week. We're going to have different interesting guests. We're going to have psychologists. We're going to have judges. We're going to have other lawyers. We're going to have forensic accountants, marriage counselors, appraisers. We're going to go through the whole gamut of divorce. And by the time you finish watching all our shows, you'll be so well educated and so prepared and be able to go through divorce in a conscious way. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.
We thank you for tuning in and invite you, our viewing audience, to participate in the next week's conversation. On the Divorce Project, our goal is to help bring the healthy outcome that your family deserves. Please email your questions to team@thedivorceproject.com or call us directly at a number on your screen.